Sexual tension.
Just a little bit. Okay. All right.
I was cheating on him with Steve Austin.
So, Charlie, speaking of...
Is Steve Austin in the studio?
Yes.
He is.
Steve Austin.
Hi, Steve Austin.
He's in the puppy playpen. It's
Oh,
during the Mommy's
he's-
radio
he's-
show.
He's in puppy jail.
Yes, it's puppy prison. Okay.
Puppy detention.
Yeah,
exactly.
Chris already noted that he, I believe by the end of this show, will be too big for this particular. He is at least twice as big as when I rescued him 2 weeks ago.
He is.
Charlie.
He's big.
He outgrew
Yeah,
grew his first collar in 2 days.
I pointed that out on Twitter. That every picture every picture you take of him, he's like twice as big as the last one.
Leon is getting larger. Okay.
Nice.
Charlie, yes, we are all about the getting vaccinated this morning, and just yay NFL, yay Department of Veterans Affairs, yay these the medical groups. And you said no jab, no play should have been the ironclad rule of these Olympics. You can't make people take care of themselves, except that you kind of can. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah,
And you said this is the
there were
Olympics that should not be.
100 American athletes were unvaccinated. How did they even get into Japan?
Yeah.
How do you travel? How do you get? I mean, this was I can't believe you were the first person I read this. You said you said how the hell is this possible? Leaving aside the question why Japan even allowed these 100 athletes to enter the country, it should have been beyond question. Every participant in these games be vaccinated and carry proof thereof. If some of the nations that can't afford it, the IOC should have paid for roving vaccination teams all over the world. Mm-hmm. Again, a lot of this, Charlie, seems like a no-brainer in places where you're clustered together like the NFL or the Army or right. I mean, it's
Well, at the Olympics, they're enforcing the quarantine, so you don't get
Right.
one of the great things about the Olympics. Anybody who ever competed in the Olympics will tell you is mixing around with the other athletes from around the world, and occasionally finding yourselves mixing in private too.
yes,
but
mixing.
they're enforcing that, so they're keeping them all together at the same time, not enforcing a vaccine mandate.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre.
Right. Well, I loved how you expanded it to the GOP. You said there's a lot of talk about how the party of personal responsibility might finally be coming around to the fact that being the party of the walking Petri dishes might be rather a bummer come next election. Of course, this development occurs just as every newspaper in America runs a column explaining that those of us who took action to keep ourselves and others safe should be careful offending the tender fifis of the no microchips please crowd. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm done. And you said Governor, what's her name? Kay of Alabama. You said, so the thing is, Governor Kay, you can make people take care of themselves. In fact, in certain circumstances, you do it all the time. You're so close. Take that last step. Make people take care of themselves. When she has the lowest vaccination rate in the country, Charlie, and she's like, well, I've done all I can do. She was one of the first people to lift the mask mandate, right?
Right. Well, not just that. I mean, look at, anybody who gets busted in Alabama for drunk driving from now on should go to court and say, hey, it's not the state's responsibility to keep me safe or keep anyone else safe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know which headline is more. The U.S. coronavirus cases maybe double the official tally.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, what, Charlie?
Nothing. Go ahead.
Here. Okay.
I'm confused.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I mean, we've been talking about this. A new study out, U.S. coronavirus cases maybe double the official tally. I mean, it's just everything we hear is and just one heartbreaking story after another, Charlie, that I guess, and speaking of Governor Kay, this was in Alabama. Did you see this one? I see. I can't be as bloodthirsty as the Hurry Up and Die caucus led by Chris Lavoie here on the Stephanie Miller Show.
Oh, for God's sake, just die.
I mean, Charlie, maybe we're going to hear more of these stories as why the vaccination rates are inching up. Christy Carpenter finds strength in her family and faith, but on some days one question keeps ringing in her head, why? After weeks of battling through oxygen treatments, her 28-year-old son died in the hospital 2 months after being diagnosed with COVID. Now in Carpenter's Alabama home, the room belonging to Kurt, her beautiful baby boy, her firstborn, remains empty, a painful reminder of a life that could have been saved if the family had decided to get vaccinated. She said, it took watching my son die and me suffering the effects of COVID for us to realize we need the vaccine. We didn't get vaccinated when we had the opportunity opportunity and regret that so much now. She said she's determined not to let her son's death be futile. If Kurt were here today, he would make it his mission to encourage everybody to get vaccinated. Kayla, his sister, and I are carrying on the mission in his memory. So they all got COVID. Kurt, his younger sister, his mother were diagnosed. His last uttered phrase, still etched in Christy Carpenter's mind, "This is not a hoax," he said, "this is real." His mother said he first believed it was a hoax. It took years to create the vaccines, and the coronavirus vaccine was created very quickly. That made us nervous. Their reluctance is not unique in the state with the lowest vaccination rate, Charlie. I mean, that's... And the problem is, I don't know how many times we can say it. This mRNA research has been going on for years, right? And it's, I mean... And Trump, by the way, saying he came up with the vaccine. I mean, Pfizer didn't take any money, and they were first.
Yeah, in his laboratory at Mar-a-Lago.
Yes, his laboratory. Anyway, I mean, Charlie, are you a little bit hopeful? I was saying we are seeing vaccination rates inch up. I don't know whether it's more stories like this, more sticks. What do you think it'll take?
Well, I mean, it's certainly not for lack of, doses.
Right.
And lack of places to get them. I mean, you can't. I don't think we can do very much more than we've already done, making it accessible. I think that if families like this one that you read, the story you just read, if more and more of those stories come out, that might be very helpful.
Yeah.
Hey, we were dumb. Don't be dumb like us. People understand that.
Yeah.
People understand, repentance. People understand regret. And I think those are much more helpful in their own way. And God knows I wish there weren't any of them. Those are a lot more helpful than being preached at, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Well, here's another one, Charlie, just because I think, I know in LA, right, Jody, we've heard there's restaurants here and places, but again, probably easier in bluish areas. In an Atlanta, Georgia restaurant owner decided to serve only fully vaccinated customers. They announced the rule on Instagram, showing a sign saying "No vax, no service." He said he came to the decision after he and 3 of his employees tested positive for the virus, even though they're all fully vaccinated. He said, "It's a question of quality of life and safety for my staff and guests. It's a privately owned small business. I have to do what I think is right to protect the people who rely on me to make a living." Only 38% of the people in Georgia are fully vaxxed, Charlie. So that takes some courage in terms of your business. But he said this is no different than no shirt, no shoes, no service.
Exactly.
I think that's a great point. And this is in Georgia.
That's right. That's exactly what he should say. Don't come in here with your COVID. Don't come in here with your ringworm. Don't bring your diseases into my establishment.
Yep. Travis has just handed me, it's never good news that Travis hands me.
Definitely not now.
Ken Delanian, right, NBC says, new data suggests that fully vaccinated individuals are not just contracting COVID, but could be carrying higher levels of the virus than previously understood, facilitating spread. New indoor masking guidance expected today. I think Dr. Fauci sort of indicated this, right, that they're looking at didn't you kind of know it, Jody? You're still double masking.
Outside.
You know what I mean, Charlie? Like maybe I'm a scaredy bear, but I remember when I was like, really? It seems too soon to take the masks off, right? And sure.
Well, I spend a lot of time here on buses and subways, and the MBTA, yes, I am indeed Charlie on the MTA.
Yeah.
The MBTA still mandates masks.
Yeah.
Same here.
Same with the subway here.
Yeah, same here.
To take a bus
Buses
or a
and
train.
subway, yeah.
And I think it's incredibly smart.
Yeah.
And if I'm gonna get off the train and go right into a building, I just leave it on.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna walk around, if I'm gonna walk, half a mile outside, I'll take it off. But
Yeah. Okay, so you were onto the Brett Kavanaugh thing, as we've been talking about. You said it always smelled like a sham. You said he sounded guilty as hell. Just for judicial temperament alone, forget the perjury and good God. And you said even some Republicans, especially then Senator Jeff Flake, suspected the same. And when the Senate Judiciary ordered up an FBI investigation at the last minute, it seemed like a transparent attempt to run out the clock. And you said if the New York Times is correct, it was even more of a bag job than it appeared. I'm with Senator Whitehouse. You cannot let a lifetime appointment stand. They have to go back and look at this investigation, quote unquote.
Well, first of all, they have to bring Christopher Wray back and put him on a barbecue spit.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
he's got to be able to answer this Time story. 4,500 tips.
Yeah.
I mean, do you know how, I mean, even assuming that half of them are nonsense or half of them are made up or half of them are coming from people who want their 15 minutes.
Yeah.
2,500 people accusing this guy. That means he was drunk a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I mean, his entire thing, I mean, he lost me as though he ever had me, but
yeah.
his defense completely lost me when he came at Amy Klobuchar.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
asked her
yeah.
if she was blackout drunk.
Well, she just
Because
talked about her
that's
father's
exactly-
alcoholism.
That's exactly what a drunk says to somebody trying to straighten him out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
knowing, I believe full well that her father had his problems with alcohol.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. Finally, I'm glad that you are getting as nervous as we are about the weird fish stories. You said giant goldfish, meth-addicted trout, and now a sturgeon scandal in Wisconsin, which you blew the lid off that. I had not heard of this. People are accused of taking sturgeon eggs from a state research lab and making them into more than $100,000 worth of caviar for their friends. Which, I mean, I will say that is a party, and I wish I knew so because I love
Bootleg
caviar.
I love caviar.
Caviar and door, friends. That's all I got to say.
Caviar and door.
And that one laid down. Thank you, Jody, for the sympathy laugh. That one sort of laid down and died.
I laughed at it heartily.
Oh, you're frozen on my screen, though, so I couldn't tell.
Oh, laughed and laughed, particularly inside. Okay.
Stephanie's frozen now.
Oh.
Travis, I can't tell. I mean, it's impossible to know.
Finally, before we go, we were riveted to Liz Cheney.
Yeah.
Rooting lustily for her. Oh, God.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was smart of Benny Thompson to give her, it
Yep.
was essentially an opening
Yep.
statement.
Yep. And put the cops out there first.
Yep.
At the back the blue
Yep,
party.
and
Here you
that's-
go.
and putting the visuals out there,
Yeah.
so we can all understand, the kind of odd habits of DC tourists these days.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I'm making my glorious return to the United States Capitol tomorrow.
Oh, fantastic.
Really?
Be
I'm gonna
careful.
go hang around and watch the end of term bloodbath for a couple of days.
All right.